All right, so here's what we're currently up to with voice expansion. We are in the process of proving our theory to be unfalsifiable. And our theory right now is that practices are losing money every single week because of no-shows and slots that just don't get filled. So what that means, or what that looks like, is throughout the week there is a ideal schedule. So client X is always on Tuesdays at 10:30, client Y is on Wednesdays at 4, and so that is how clinicians, the people that work for the CEO, the SLP who owns the business, build their caseload. So when the companies that we're going for have 6 to 12 clinicians, those 6 to 12 clinicians have caseloads. And when those caseloads are full, they obviously get paid more. The company gets paid more, and the CEO takes home more money in return. What we're trying to do is make sure that those clinicians that are getting paid, no matter what, if there's a no-show or not, we're making sure that at the end of the day, the CEO is increasing their profits and that there is less leaks in the schedule. So why this is a problem that's worth solving is because we have reviewed our 6 variables that make a problem worth charging for. So that's the leak. So the leak is where time or money is escaping. We have tested that this is where money is escaping. Frequency, this is how big is the problem and how often is it recurring. This is happening on a weekly basis. Size of the problem, that is right now what we're trying to test. So we know for sure that there are no-shows, right? Like kids get sick, they go on vacation, things happen. How often is it happening and how much money is the business actually losing? So that's the size, the ROI of like, if we were to solve this, how much money can we get them back? That's what we're trying to figure out. The ownership gap. So is there a valid reason why they haven't just solved this themselves? And from the research that we've been doing, it shows that the owner themselves, while they may have tools in place like auto scheduler or schedule reminders, they're not the one who's taking responsibility for filling in the gaps. So there might be a tool or a system that they use that sends out a text reminder. Hey, in 48 hours, you have your speech session with Miss Sam. Are you going to be attending? If the parent writes back no, there's this whole missing piece of who fills in the gap. Or they might have a front desk person who attempts to fill in the gap, but with everything else going on, they don't give it their full attention. The worst is same day, which means they're canceling within 24 hours of their appointment, or a late cancellation. So it's like 2:30 and they have a 4 o'clock appointment and they're canceling then. That's when there's less time for the front desk person to really get it figured out, and they have to be notified right away. So that's where we're coming in. We're gonna fill that gap. How we are different is we're not just a tool. We utilize the tools that they have in place so that they don't have to change anything. There's no learning curve. But on top of it, we are the ones managing and operating it. And then a layer deeper on that is we're writing the weekly reports. So we are telling them, okay, this week at baseline, you have like 2 to 3 gaps or slots that are open across clinician, which say it's 2 and there's 6 clinicians, that's 12 spots a week that are not getting filled. That's baseline. Now, after we're manually doing it and we're setting up SOPs so that reminders are going out, wait lists are being updated, intake is being done fast enough, kids with the proper authorization are being put in these spots. There's just so many factors to consider if you're gonna fill one of these slots that it takes time. We're doing that on the back end. Okay, now that you've implemented our system, and this week, instead of 12 spots, you only had 4 gaps in the schedule. We were able to fill, those 8 slots. So that is what we're gonna do. Attribution of the problem is the ability to prove the result came from our solution. So right now we're looking for 2 design partners, and these are basically our before and after pictures. This is what the attribution of the problem looks like, because if we're not able to go to a company and be like, hey, we solved this problem for this company, here are the actual numbers before us and then after us, then it's hard to prove that the problem is something that we're solving. And then number 6, access to cash. So in order for them to pay us, they should be getting more money back and using that money to make it a no-brainer to pay us to get more money on their end, more revenue. So that's the 6 variables of the problem that we have been researching: the leak, the frequency, the size, the ownership gap, attribution, and access to cash. This problem, the leak problem of the schedule, fits all 6 right now, theoretically. So it means that's a problem worth solving for practices. And then you can take it a step further and go through the 7 variables that make a solution irresistible for both parties. So for us to actually do, and then for them to actually receive. So I went ahead and plugged in our problem into the solution sandbox just to make sure that it fits. So right now, what our solution is, our deliverables. We have, after I cold call them up, I'm getting them on a 20-minute audit call. On the audit call, we are going to walk through 5 diagnostic questions to see if they are a candidate for us. At the end of that call, they're going to share with us 3 reports from their EMR, which is showing us their actual numbers. They send us the numbers. We write a 1-page report that outlines where the leaks are, where cash is being lost, and where utilization rates could be increased. So utilization rate is the percentage of slots being filled each week versus how much capacity they have. So we do the audit. The audit is huge because that's going to sell it for them. In the audit, we should see, they should at least, where's my sticky note? They should at least be leaking $3,000 per month. Because if they are, then it makes sense for them to pay for our services. If the leak isn't big enough, which our research and AI was letting us know that the research shows on these calls, there could be 1 out of 3 people who, when you do this audit, they're not losing money. And that's great for them. You know, that they run a tight ship, they're making profit. That doesn't mean that the solution isn't verified. It just means that, you know, they got what they're doing down, and they still get to keep the audit. So it's a win-win. They still get to see their numbers and maybe sleep better at night to know, like, okay, I'm doing everything I can. So the audit then leads to the audit review, which is the sales call. Once we sign them, we give daily end of day reports. So this report is like 5 lines max that just says, hey, these 3 people canceled this morning and we were able to fill 2 out of 3 of these slots. Or we had 4 evals on your list that were not on a caseload yet. We actually placed them with a clinician, all 4 of them. So they are now recurring weekly appointments that you're gonna get paid for. So it's just looking at the list, making sure we're optimizing the clinician's caseloads and that they're making more money at the end of the week, and at the end of the day, it's showing what we were actually doing daily. Weekly, we're sending them the utilization scoreboard. So this is across the week, how many slots were filled, how many slots were recovered, how many slots remained empty, and then a trend from baseline. So your baseline was here, we got you here. Essentially, we have to fill all this stuff out still. And then we send a monthly revenue statement. So how much revenue were we able to recover with our system, proving that it was us. So a list of sessions filled times their margin, and then that number should be big enough for them to be like, wow, this service is cheap, let's keep paying. And then we are always on. So on top of those 4 deliverables that I just mentioned that are physical, the 5th one is we're always on. We always have texts going out to families. We always have the wait list being worked, seeing where we can fit kids onto the schedule, and we're always confirming sessions. At the 90-day mark, so this is specifically for our design partners because there's going to be, I'll kind of get into that next, is the design partner offer looks a little different than our actual offer, but at 90 days with our design partner, we can say, here's our SOPs, you can take them. If you'd like to renew with us, we are happy to operate it as we have been, as you've been getting the results. Our price does increase at this point because we've shown you the before and after now. If you don't want to continue, if they choose not to, which wouldn't make sense, but if they don't, they get the SOPs, but without our operations on the back end, it actually starts to not work and they don't see as great of results. So that's why the re-signing on monthly makes so much sense for them. So we want to roughly get them to gain $40,000 to $90,000 per year extra, because that's what our solution is offering. I'll get into the numbers after. I'm kind of getting all of it. So that's our solution, what I was just saying, our deliverables. So we have 6 things we're delivering, and that meets the 7 variables of the solution sandbox, which I won't go too much into. But then we have the path. So how do we make this plan work to where we're still on track? August 1st, we're signing our first client. That will be our design partner. And so this is what this page says. The biggest thing, other than which I've already was doing previously, is 20 cold calls per day of the exact ICP. And then it has our call scripts in here. There was a document that I wanted to share that was within here because it shows the numbers very well, or maybe it wasn't in here. I don't think it was in here. But I'm looking for the numbers on what they're actually getting back, because it's an insane difference for what they're getting paid versus what they're leaving on the table if they don't have this system in place. Maybe this is the document. We printed a lot of documents and okay, it's right here. This is good. Here, ready? Okay. So say the owner is paying their clinicians, their SLPs, or whatever field they're in. It could be OTs, PTs, etc. Say they're salaried or they're hourly but guaranteed hours. So they get paid the same paycheck regardless. That means the owner has a fixed income, or a fixed income that they're paying each month for rent and for their employees. It doesn't change no matter what. So when the slots are open and there's a cancellation, that owner still pays the clinician. That means they lost money. Well, if we were able to just fill one slot, that's an extra $90 to $105 per slot. And that's pure profit because they've already paid the clinicians, right? So that is why it's very specific. One of our diagnostic questions is, what is your compensation for clinicians? Because if they get paid hourly or per visit, so like per visit is if there's a no-show, the clinician doesn't get paid. They only get paid when they're doing direct services. That means if we fill a slot, they have to give 70 of that dollars, 60 or $72 to that clinician, and the profit on their end is only $40 to $45. $40 to $55, which it still makes sense. There's no model in which our solution has the clinician owner losing money. But yeah, that's kind of what we are doing right now. The exciting part is this pathway, this plan. So we are calling people. Ryan, your role has to do with now you're building those assets that I was just talking about. So a PDF for our plug and play audit that we'll be sharing with them. That is the first asset. We need a 1-page design partner agreement draft. We need an offer page. We need to set up their scoreboard. So what are we looking for weekly, monthly? What are we sending them? These PDFs have to be like put into a system. We need to create an SOP. And then what I'm doing is those cold calls. Cold calls, getting people on audits, getting those audits to then book in the audit review. I don't know yet. We'll see. I don't know what the most challenging part will be, but I'm very excited, okay? Because we're dealing with some big problems here. Kids are not being seen, clinicians are losing money, and the people who started their very own practice had courage enough to scale, to grow it, because we've talked to a lot of private practice owners that are like, nah, I'm comfortable, I don't want to hire people, that's just too much work. But the people that were like, you know what, I'm going to do it, I'm going to go full in, I'm going to grow, who took their practice to the next level, these are people who are losing money now, who are so stressed out that they're like, all right, I thought that this would be a good idea, but now I'm questioning everything. Like, should I not have scaled this much? Should I cut back, cut on overhead costs? Why does it feel like we're full every week, but I'm not making as much money? And this is why, because it's that silent no-shows here and there throughout the week that we can get back for them easily. So this is exciting. I have been researching it for the past 2 days, and yeah, I can't wait to get on cold calls tomorrow. So that's what we're doing. Let me know if you have any questions.